Well, hey folks, Dave Mishra here with Sideline Sports Doc, and I'm pleased to be here in San Diego, California at Synergy Orthopedic Specialist Medical Group with Dr. Tal David, a friend and colleague and one of our partners at Sideline Sports Doc. And what I'd like to do is see if we can learn a little bit from Dr. David's vast experience as a professional team physician and help us take us a little bit inside the ropes, if you will, here, and learn a little bit more about what a team doctor does for an NFL team, what a team doctor does for an AHL hockey team, and see if there might be some things here that'll be interesting and enlightening for you. By way of background, Dr. David heads up the medical group here at Synergy and was, for a long time, the San Diego Chargers head team physician. And as a fan, it gives me great pain to not be able to say San Diego Chargers. Sorry, as a total aside.
But you can still be a fan. You just can't come watch them in San Diego anymore. That's different.
In addition to that work with the Chargers, I know that you are currently the head team physician for the AHL San Diego Gulls hockey team.
Okay.
And so I wondered, Tal, tell us a little bit about your experience with the Chargers as a head team physician. We'll talk a little bit about your experience also with the Gulls. And then I've got a few questions that I'd love to ask about what actually goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, sure. I'm excited to share some time with you this afternoon. Thanks for coming down.
If we talk about game day life.
Yeah.
Let's look at the NFL, an extremely visible thing, high definition cameras, lots of people interested in what's going on in the field of play, lots of people interested in injury reports ahead of time.
Right.
So take us a little bit through game day. What does game day look like from the head team physician standpoint? When do you get to the stadium? What kind of goes on from there?
Yeah, game day really is the whole day. So, and it's actually a very small part of what happens as a team physician for these teams, because game day is a culmination of all of the medical care that really began from Monday through the week and culminates in hopefully what results in a successful win. But the day itself involves an early start. You know, players get to the stadium 2-3 hours ahead of the actual kickoff. Team doctors have to be there typically when the players get there, so we tend to get there a little bit before the players do. And it starts with going over the injury reports, making sure that we have the latest updates from the head athletic trainers, what they've seen in the day or so since practice. And then as the patients start to trickle in, it can just making sure you're available to take care of what their needs are. And some guys just come in for a quick update. Other guys have more pressing needs. And so the day starts early. And then, of course, once the game starts, it's really just about making sure that you're triaging injuries that are occurring at the time that they're occurring. And the game time is actually some of the funnest time. It's stressful, but obviously at that point you can enjoy the game and not exactly relax by any means, but at least distract yourself a little bit from the medicine. Hopefully your needs are very few and far between from whistle to whistle. So then post game, obviously there's some injuries that occur at every football team has at least a dozen things that need medical attention at the end of a game. And hopefully they're minor, but you get through that. That's a few hours of time after everyone else has left the stadium. The players are collecting their things and getting on their way. And so it really does start, for a typical 1 p.m. kickoff, it'll start at 9, 10 o'clock and end somewhere around 6 or 7.
Okay, all right. And in the NFL, as a head team physician, you were present for every game, whether it's home or away.
Right.
Same with preseason.
Yes.
And hopefully with postseason.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, any game in January is a good game.
Any game in January is a really good game. And how does hockey differ from that? It's in the AHL. Are your responsibilities similar there?
So every league has its own, every game really has its own cadence in terms of what sport. In hockey, hockey, Major League Baseball, the NBA, with that many games, the practicality of having a doctor, the same doctor there for every game is very very difficult to engineer. So we we would typically cover all the home games.
Okay.
And away games are typically covered by the hosting team.
Okay.
And so when I'm covering a game in San Diego, then we will take care of the visiting team, and they'll return the favor when we visit them.
Okay.
So that's typically the way it's done. Now, if there's opportunities to cover, for example, in the postseason in these leagues, typically the doctor will travel. So even for away games in those cases, you've got to change your schedule and reschedule a few things, whether it's surgery or otherwise, and make yourself available.
Now, if I can dig a little bit deeper into one of the things that you alluded to a moment ago, was that on game days in the NFL, once the game takes place, it is fun, and yet as head team physician, you're working. You're not a fan at that point. You have to be locked in and ready to do whatever is necessary for you to do. One of the things that we do at Sideline Sports Doc with our non-medically trained folks is to try and teach them a method that in an emotional environment on the field of play for a youth sport team, that they're able to try and use a process to help them make correct decisions that are in the best interest of the young player on the field of play. Do you have something similar that goes through your head when you're on the field of play with an elite professional athlete in the NFL? Lots of eyes are on you at that time. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are riding on those decisions that are made there. Can you tell us a little bit about your thought process that goes into that decision on the field?
Well, you bring up something that I think is not intuitive, and that is that you have to completely divorce yourself from the surroundings when you're evaluating a player that's down at the time of the injury. And you can't, you really can't let the fact that you're in the middle of a 70,000 seat stadium in the middle of a game take any space in your mind. And you have to do it in a way that's calm, and you have to do it in a way that is very systematic. And you have to divorce yourself from the score or the, what exactly happened in the injury. Is there a flag? Is there not a flag? And you just basically become a physician. And for a non-physician, that's not something that's very easy to do. And so, the best advice for someone who is, taking care of a high school athlete and maybe isn't a medical professional is to take a deep breath and divorce yourself from your surroundings and really just engage in what the task is at hand. And it could be someone with a head injury, it can be someone with an ankle injury, and I think the hardest thing to do is to just separate yourself from that environment.
And do you use some sort of maybe not a literal, but a mental checklist or something when you're thinking about an injury? Do you start with looking at the play on the monitor?
The way that the NFL evaluates injuries is actually very comprehensive. And it does involve access to video footage. So typically what we do in the NFL is have one physician check the video while the other goes to the field and takes care of the athlete. Okay. And then at some point you reconcile those two pieces of information and put it all together. So there's a time and a place for the video, and I think it's a very important part of making the diagnosis. In fact, a lot of times the diagnosis can be made from the video, but obviously that's only a very small part of the overall assessment. So one of the reasons we have so many physicians on the sideline is so all of these tasks can be done in a relatively quick way. We know, for example, that I will be covering the field. My associate or assistant on the field will be covering the video monitor. Someone else will be engaging the athletic trainers and making sure that they have what they need. And it's not a one-man show by any means.
For our folks at home viewing this, some of the key takeaways from what Dr. David has just described to you is that in the world of the NFL, in that highly charged atmosphere, a professional like Dr. David is still going through a mental checklist to make sure that the things that are being done on the field of play are done in the best interest of that athlete who is injured at the time. And for you at home, we teach you that method: story, appearance, feel, effort. 4 simple steps that we'd like you to take. Follow these. It's going to help keep you in the right path and working in the best interest of that young player. Thanks again for joining us. Tal, thanks so much for providing some incredible insights and taking us behind the scenes of an NFL team physician's game day life.
Pleasure.